What up, everyone? This episode has been brought to you by Jam Hits. Jam Hits is a one-stop shop for all of your multimedia needs. Whether you're an artist in need of some studio time, recording a music video, if you're in need of printing out some artwork for your upcoming album, show, or merch, Jam Hits is the place for you. We also have many different podcasts and radio shows in which you can promote yourself in the confines of our state-of-the-art studio. I guarantee you, once again, Jam Hits is the place for you, so go give them a follow on Instagram. This is for all of my sneakerheads out there. I get all of my sneakers from one place, and that is Inland Empire Sneakers. Are you tired of paying those extra fees on certain websites? Are you tired of missing the beat on the latest drops? Are you tired of your shoe plug being outrageously overpriced? Well, if you answered yes to any of those questions, go give Inland Empire Sneakers a try. That's my primo, and let him know that Santi sent you. Once again, Inland Empire Sneakers on Instagram. Go give them a DM, go follow them, and for an extra discount, let them know your boy Santi sent you. Welcome to another episode of Santi's Section, everyone. Today, my guest, my homie, my brother, A.D.V.I.S. is here. How you doing, bro?
What's going on, my G? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. It's been a long time in the making.
For sure.
I've known you almost a year. Yeah. I met you at the Fix in Pomona in August.
Yes, and then we also did it was for Rube's album
that
release
was it.
party.
That was it.
Yes.
That was
yes.
it. Yeah,
yes.
That was Rube's album release party. Shout out to Rube. Got the album right there, the CD.
Yeah. Nice.
And I remember I was introduced to you by Tom from ORG.
Oh,
I have a great memory. People trip out on my memory despite my old age. And I remember that.
Shouts out to Tom.
Yeah. Shout out to ORG too, man. Look at these guys. These guys, my whole setup is from that family. But I remember that we were getting food, I believe. We're in the back area, and Tom is like, "Oh, Santi, this guy does podcasts too." You know, he's like, "This is my boy A.D.V.I.S.S, and you had your camera with you and all that." I was like, "Okay, what's up?" We sat at the round table, we chopped it up. I'm not gonna lie to you, bro. That day, I was like, "All right, cool." At that moment, I'm like, "This guy's a podcaster. All right, he looks like he does some cinematography. Cool."
Yeah.
And when the performances started, that's all I thought of you. You know what I mean? I didn't know you. I remember, and then all of a sudden, Distract's like, "All right, next performer, the homie A.D.V.I.S." I was like, "Oh damn, homeboy performs too? What the hell?" So right off the bat, I got an idea of what you do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So where did it start, man? Like, out of all those, I pretty much just gave a breakdown of your whole resume, aside from what you do in your 9 to 5, which we'll dive into that too.
Yes.
You know, because that's very crucial and important.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
a lot of that really going from the beginnings for me, it was a lot of just being involvement in the church. So I was a part of the multimedia ministry is what they called it. So I was running the main boards for the church, doing the mics and stuff, as well as also doing the camera work at times. So like this was a group of the youth there at the church that was doing a lot of this stuff. And then during the summer, I would also be with my mentor, and then there's a group of us who would be either going out and we'd be filming graduations, we'd be in the studio working on just laptops and computers, or just building things around in that state, learning how to do storyboards. There's a numerous amount of stuff. And then just like with the music in general too, I was just involved in around music just very early on, whether if it's my grandmother, my grandfather, them playing music when we at parties, my mom when she's at home either doing some spring cleaning or whatever, she just throwing everything that I can think of on. We listening to Ashford and Simpson, Chico DeBarge, we listening to Mariah Carey, we listening to a numerous amount of folks, sometimes not even within hip hop, but just like around in those different genres, as well as Earth, Wind and Fire. Earth, Wind and Fire for sure. That was always being played for sure.
Daily rotation.
Oh man, I still listen to their greatest hits album, even though I know they have other stuff, but that's something I need to delve into more. A lot of other people's catalogs, but a lot of it is just I was just from observing and just like seeing my family and everybody within the environment doing something, you know, whether it was like singing, whether if it was just some type of creative art. And then that just pushed me to be like, you know what, let me find my reins around this. And from there, doing that led me to the first course. A lot of this I started off with just like music. So I was just an avid listener of just music. Whether you got Tupac, you got I had listened to Common, I was listening to Eminem, at least in the hip hop realm, and then again the same folks that I mentioned before. And I was just reciting rhymes, and just like learning the lyrics and just going about just doing that to a point where, shouts out to my homie Rubber Ducky Russ. I'm gonna always keep on shouting him out, because in 5th grade is when I really started thinking about really taking writing and like this creating more seriously. And it was because of him. In 5th grade, he came and he had the energy of just like, all right, man, like, all right, let's start, let's do some battles and things. So then like literally we get in all of my friends and stuff to try to do rap battles during nutrition or during recess and lunch, and just like going back and forth, trading bars, trying to see who got the wittiest bar and things of that sort, which then again led me into start writing. And then since I was still involved around in the church, I started getting into confirmation, and then they start having journals and stuff, and then just start making me just like want to just start writing lyrics. And I remember one in particular, because at that time I was very religious. Now, not necessarily, but just more spiritual in a sense, if we want to use that word. But I remember I was writing to one of the tracks from A.D.V.I.S.S, and it was I want to say, I think it's The Last Train. I think it's The Last Train. I think it's the track. If I'm saying it wrong, my apologies. But I was writing, and I remember I was putting in verses about it, and it was like, God don't make no mistake, something. I was just like coming up with like a number of different things, but like I kept it hidden for such a very long time because of the fact that, again, I wasn't comfortable and confident in my critiques of my art just yet. And that would follow me all the way to high school when I first started really recording. And yeah, that was an interesting route.
Wow. So, okay, church, Idlewild, writing,
yes,
Tupac. So you brought up a whole ton of bullet points that I want to touch on from that.
Yes.
How old were you when you were watching Idlewild?
Idlewild, let's see, that came out in what,
2007?
Yeah, 2006, 2007. Yeah. So that was me entering from about like 7th, 8th, 8th grade, and about to go into high school.
Yeah. Oh, because you said 5th grade. I'm like, damn, I don't know if I was like, I don't know if my daughter would be allowed to watch Idlewild in the 5th grade. Bro.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, not in the 5th grade, but like again, 5th grade in the sense of like my friend bringing that interest into like really, instead of just listening to music, like, yo, write something. Yeah. Like actually start involving yourself. And that's, to make an extra point on that too, is I started during that time. You started having, you got the G units, you got like all these different areas of like hip hop, and it feel like it's segueing away from its original purpose. Yeah. And instead of me at that time, when my homie challenged me, instead of me just complaining about what music was sounding like at that time, which no disrespect to G Unit, like there's tracks like, man, Lloyd Banks, people sleep on Lloyd Banks too much.
Yeah, they do.
Like that man is extremely fire when it comes to him writing. But it made me think of, you know what? Instead of complaining, why don't I become part of the solution? Yeah. So then that's when I started doing the writing.
No, I love that you just said that, man, because I mean, I'm slightly older than you. No. But I felt that way, and you just put it into words how during that era of hip hop, a lot of people don't know this, because a lot of people base their perception of hip hop, when you say even the perception of hip hop, or how do you feel about the state of hip hop right now, or state of music in general, they base it on the mainstream, right? Mm-hmm. And at the time, I think when you're at a younger age, by default, you're gonna base it off the mainstream, off of what's going on. But the way you just phrased it, that it segued into something else during that time, it did. And maybe perhaps like Lloyd Banks, he's super talented, but it's not his fault that he had to do it a certain manner, a certain way. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was religiously, passionately hating on that era of hip hop.
Yeah,
I was. So the way you broke it down, that's a good PG way to put it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I mean, again, there's a lot of folks that came out of that I mean, were, again, it was extremely dope. It was like during that time where they were finding themselves. Yeah. But I think there's a lot of people who was in that transition trying to find themselves. So if it didn't hit and stick with them at that moment, like I didn't see too much of like I kind of dig it, but I don't. It was more so like either you digged it or you didn't. Yeah. And I mean, for myself, I was like, you know what? Like I said, I'm not going to complain about it. Why don't I start doing something on my own?
That's amazing. Yeah. And that was during the time too, where I started finding my own identity away from the norm of what we were taught to listen to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? During that time.
Yeah.
So shout out to 50 Cent, no disrespect, but it's true. I'm not talking shit.
Yeah.
You know? Because like, you're like, man, he's good, right?
Yes.
But during that time, I feel like you felt like, man, why isn't this going on when this is here? You know what I'm saying? Like that's when around the time where I started diving more into like the underground.
Yeah.
And a lot of
having that term, the underground.
Yeah, it's independent.
Yeah.
And, you know, but yeah, it's a trip how that works out. So with church, you touched on something that I'm very, very big on, and a lot of people will never know the difference between being religious and spiritual.
Yeah.
It's hard to like break that into their head because like with me, as a kid, I was very religious by default due to being indoctrinated or being due to my upbringing. Yeah, from my upbringing. And it's hard to, whether you're practicing, you know, any religion that you're practicing or any belief that you're practicing, it's hard for people to understand, okay, this is what I believe in. This is what I practice. Yeah. But it's not my religion.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. So can you like elaborate how that change happened with you to where you're like, all right, brother, this is me.
I'll take you on the trip right now.
Yeah, thank you.
The first part I'm gonna tell you, and since I'm a lover of words, that's one word that, I mean, for me, I've taken out of my vocabulary because I've been flipped. I have a song about it, literally called Real. But the word belief, if you look at it, belief or believe, you can lie about your beliefs because within the word belief, there's a lie. And because of that fact, you talk about the indoctrination, because you can get somebody to believe something, to lie about something that you think is true, and you continue to perpetuate it over and over again to a point like, now not only say that somebody's going to look foolish for still thinking about it, but it's like, yo, my family's done this for like years and years on end. Like, I might as well just keep going now. And that's why when I saw the word believe, sometimes when people say that, you know, or they talk about they believe something, I got to a point where it's either I think or I know. And not even a know in a sense of being arrogant, but just know as in I've went through the experience. I've already had that happen. So I've turned that knowledge into wisdom, because then after that, it creates the knowing from that. But with transitioning and finding myself from, of course, being religious, which if folks want to know, Lutheran, I was evangelical Lutheran. So interesting mix, which I still don't know all the different denominations. It's like so many different denominations.
Thousands of denominations, even under the Christian umbrella.
Oh, for sure. And a lot of it is depending on like certain like books that were either still there or taken out, or they really stress like one concept or like multiple concepts like within the Bible more than other different pieces. But again, it's literally like different type of flavors, like which flavor you want at this point. But
preferences.
That is true.
I feel that it comes from that. And I think you and I talked about this before. I think a lot of that is based off of preference. You know, like someone 100 years ago decided, you know what? I want females to just wear dresses. Yeah. Because that's what I want. Yeah. And I'm going to find this loophole in this scripture in which it's going to prove me right. Yes. That's my opinion on that.
Oh, what about the end of the day? A lot of this is man-made. Yeah. Again, it's an institution. That's why a lot of people are saying that they don't necessarily believe in a religious institutions. Like some people will still claim religious, but in a sense of now it comes back to the ideas of philosophy. And that's kind of where I kind of take with a lot of that stuff now as I've learned. So shouts out to all my folks too, that again, still reading the Bible, because then I have the acronym is not mine, but it's already been said a number of different times, but basic instructions before leaving earth. And that's how I feel about a lot of stuff, especially within religion and then Christianity. If that's the basic for like the foundation, okay, where then is the advanced? Where is then after that, not saying the master, but then the expert? So where is that in particular? So as I was in church, most of the time, since I was doing this stuff as I got older and I was a part of the multimedia ministry, it made me start thinking into a lot of that stuff because I was working. So sometimes when the pastor was giving the word, I wasn't necessarily always getting the word is because I had to make sure, oh, the mic is on. Okay, he switches from one mic and he goes to another mic and he's going out here. Oh, he might want some music to play at this particular cue. So I'm in work mode and I'm missing out on those type of messages or, missing out on that type of feel. Yeah. And then, of course, if you're not doing your job, you already know it's going to be a number of people already in the church looking up at you, looking and saying like, okay, like what's going on? Like what's happening? And, just like, not necessarily stressed, but it's just like, okay, man, I have to stay focused on this and like have to blurt out everything else. But I started to notice after a while, once I start coming into like learning and knowing more stuff, that a lot of the concepts that are learned in religion in general, like those are, good concepts to have, especially when trying to figure out your character.
Absolutely.
And that's when I started to branch out into different places. And when I mean by different places, I mean once I hit high school going into college, because again, I'm evangelical Lutheran, I was, but I went to a Catholic school. So it's like I got to see night and day, like, okay, what does Catholicism have? And then what's different from Christianity? They have the thing where they don't have any, and at least in Christianity, there is no saints in particular, and then also there is not a Hail Mary. None of those like particular folks are there in that. So I was like learning the difference between those balances, and then questioning like why is that the case? Because then some people again will be so devout Christian or devout Catholic, and like trying to have conversations with everybody says you don't bring up politics, religion, and like other different things of that sort. But I was always like questioning like why was that the case? Like why I can't ask certain questions. And for me, I never got the oh, you're going to hell. Like never. And like, that's the one thing I would say is positive when I was there at church. Like they never said, if I did this, like you're going to hell, like to like kind of reprimand and scare you.
Yeah.
It was just more of a sense of like, just like trying to you just getting rid of your sins. He did this, like that whole spiel. I was never like scared into like, if you don't do right, you're going to be going to this place.
Yeah.
So once that continued, and I got into college, that's where kind of everything else just spanned out from there. I just was literally, I took a religion course where it was like world religions. So it was learning about all the different Confucianism. You was learning about Buddhism. You was learning about Catholicism, like learning all the view and kind of getting the main point for all of them together, what they're trying to do.
Yes.
And once I got that, I was like, that kind of it kind of makes sense. I don't necessarily have to, run this as long as I know that it's helping me to become and build myself as a, moral character of how I stand on my own morals, like to each his own.
Yeah.
So then that's when I move over into the spirituality part. Is I've had my experience when I moved out to Seattle. So shouts out to my folks that was out there in Seattle. Like during that point, that was a major point where I was really rethinking a lot of things. I was reading a lot of books, some books that my mom had, like some books that like, as you are on that path, it just appears for a certain reason. Like once you're going that way, the universe just tends to have all the signs and information there for you. So you're just like, is this really what I need right now? Or, like you're giving me hints towards something. So when I went out there and then I was in a program working with students and working with youth, which to me was the most terriblest program I've ever been in. I don't want to say the name, don't want to give it any type of credit, but what it did is it made me rethink a lot of just my life in general. So when I was there, I rethought everything. Like I would even still watch sermons like on Sundays and stuff. Like I had a nice routine of like not only filling me mentally, physically, but spiritually, like all of that stuff. So it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm not even in the church right now, and like I'm still getting what I need.
Yes.
And then even from the experiences of meeting a lot of different people and going through that, it just showed me that, you know what, like let me build something of, not saying just not only of my own, but like I'm just taking concepts from places and kind of just creating it into my own, in particular philosophies and how I look at it now.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And what my takeaway from that is that once you branch out of that, I feel like that's when you start learning more from people, and you stop gatekeeping yourself from a lot of things, right?
Yes.
Like it's like if I stayed in my upbringing, I'll call it that. Right now, I wouldn't be talking to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or right now, I wouldn't be learning anything from you because I'd be blocking that from myself.
Very true.
Due to my upbringing. Like we were taught, I feel like that's the enemy over there.
Mm-hmm.
That's this. They wouldn't say it all the time, but in many hardcore, extreme places, they'll teach you that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that it's like I've learned so much from the opposing side.
Yes.
I'm saying opposing side because it's not an opposing side. It's amazing. And I feel like that the root or the foundation of everything that you just explained from those different paths of life, I'm not gonna call them beliefs.
Yes. You're good.
From those different paths of life, that's the foundation anyways, is the love, love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Things like that. So how are you going to say that thy neighbor is bad, but you have to love them?
Yeah.
You know?
It's a contradiction. And that's why when a lot of man-made things that we create or we come up with, again, it's imperfect.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how you end up finding all of those, those flaws, and you learn from those flaws to build yourself and become better.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to add in another part to the religious aspect too, and this was also like blew my mind and kind of was making me laugh. So when I was in college, I had the opportunity to also study abroad. So I studied abroad in Italy. So I was over basically in Europe for about 3.5 months.
Wow.
And my roommate at the time when I was there, he's atheist. If I'm correct, I remember, but basically we ended up taking about like a 2.5 hour train to Rome. We went to Peter Square, St. Peter's Square, like right in front of the Vatican. And there was like 3 like cardinals in training, if I'm like correct, like there's the colorings of it is sorts. And my roommate decided to just have a debate with the 3 of them about religion in general. So I'm just like listening to the conversation, just like a back and forth of like question here and question there, and then the answer. And I interjected and I was like, the funny thing is I'm listening to both of y'all and y'all are saying very similar things, but just in a different way. And then I got cut off. I was like, no, it's not the same because this is, and then, it just made me start to think like, then what's the point of like religion in the sense of like, isn't it supposed to connect and like bring people together versus like separate? Yeah. So those are like the little small pieces of information that I was learning and I was seeing. I was like, you know what? Like, again, to each his own, as long as it's building you to become a better version of yourself and you're not hurting anybody, I don't mind whatever you're practicing. But that was the piece that made me start pushing away from institutionalized religion, is because of the fact that we're so hard set on it that when somebody makes a similar point to you, but just because they on this side and you on this side, you have to still say no.
Exactly. Like you want to find a reason to not like the person.
Yes.
No matter what.
Yes.
It's like, come on, man.
Yes.
You're wearing red, I'm wearing blue.
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'm not gonna like you because you're wearing red.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, that's very fascinating stuff that we just touched on, brother. And for those of you that don't know, my boy right here, you are a key part of why I continued podcasting, or why I started podcasting. You may not know this. So when I met you, I know we went down that story where I went down that path of how I met you and all of that. So I started following you on Instagram, and then I saw your what's the word, and you're like, Santi, join in if you want. You had some very interesting topics that align with the stuff that we're talking about right now. And I remember at the time I was like already considering doing this. I already had some plans some things in the works. Where I was gonna do it from home, and I had some health issues, this and that. So after that, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. And while I was at home, injured, you had your grand finale, your series finale of the What's the Word.
Yes.
And I got in there. I was barely, I couldn't sit down, I think at the time, or I was finally sitting down. I think that's what I said. It was like my first day sitting down. Oh, bro, this was perfect timing. But I thank you, bro, for this.
I appreciate
because you kept my creative juices flowing. You made me want to do this, I mean, not that you forced me, but you inspired me to continue doing this, because you're amazing at what you do. You had What's the Word? Which was a multifaceted podcast. You would touch on various topics, controversial topics.
Oh yeah, I had to.
My boy got shadow banned a couple times.
Man, oh man, that episode, man. I'm really upset that episode wasn't able to be made, because that's where I kind of did a lot more research. And it was about like true crimes and things of that sort. Like, I'm mad that episode got banned, but it's all good.
You could always send it to people.
Oh yeah, I couldn't even save it.
What?
That's the problem. Because on
Instagram,
Instagram, like I even tried to like I don't know when they stopped doing it, but like the first instance of when they start doing the lives, of course it was only an hour, and then you had to stop and you had to continue again. And it got to a point where they start adding more people. And then depending on how much you use live, then it start giving you more hours. I think now, like if you have an active account, like you still can go live for like 4 hours.
Oh, okay.
But like during that time, like I used to be able to download it and keep it on my camera roll. But then what started happening is they didn't leave the option for a download anymore, and you had to save it on your post. Yeah. And then I would go and I would have to get on my computer and I would have to find IG like downloader to get the videos. Wow. Yeah, and since I couldn't save it, I couldn't have the video. So again, it's in the aether.
That's a trip.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I had a summary of it, and the folks who were there, they got to, you know, experience it.
Yeah.
With all its ups and downs.
I wish I was wrong for that. So yeah, you had that going on, and like I said, you put it to an end.
Yeah.
You know, right now you have more
interviews,
which is a similar podcast to this, but
yes.
My boy does a lot better than I do.
Man.
You have those, and then you have Freestyle Sundays.
Yes.
So with Freestyle Sundays, I did want to ask you about that.
Oh, for sure.
Are they pre-written, or do you just do them on the spot? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh no. No, you're good, because I'll just say this. A lot of the, I mean, I'm gonna say more, but a lot of it, of course, I'm pre-recording, because I used to, when I first started doing it, because it was on a whim actually. Because I didn't have any posts when I decided to take my like true dive into, like, you know what, I'm actually going to get into like this music stuff and like actually putting content in. So before then, I kind of kept dabbling back and forth, but I made the decision around 2017, 2018 when I made a name switch. So before, I used to go by Thesis was my artist name, but then I started popping up. There was a break dancer named Thesis, and then before I knew it, like I started finding out there's like multiple different theses, like theses or thesi, however that word is said. But like I found that so many other people was named Thesis, and I was just like, yo, I have to do something about this. What am I, going to change? During that time too, I was like getting deep into meditation and like a lot of like grounding myself. So like I sat there in meditation, and like the name just came to me. So then it just went from A.D.V.I.S.S, and A.D.V.I.S.S standing for a dreamer's vision to seeing success. And I was like, you know what, I like this. Yeah. So shifting to that, that's how I was like, you know what, because I was always freestyling anyways on a lot of my stuff, like my older projects is Thesis. Like I think like the first project I had, like almost about maybe 88 and like 90% of that project was freestyle. Like I didn't feel like writing, and like I had the energy at that time in high school, and I was just like, yo, I just want to put this out. Like I don't want to sit down and write anything. So like I understand some of my homies who, because they're freestyling, it's hard for them to sit there and bottle that energy in to be able to then be not only confident, but I mean be balanced and focused to write it all out. It's because you have that raw energy there. So I was doing that, and then because I didn't have anything, because I took that dive and decided, you know what, let me just start putting out content. Literally, I just put on like one of my favorite beats that was there at the time. Shouts out to Eric G. A part of, I think, of the Soul Counselor over in that area. It was actually a Rhapsody song, All Black Everything. Shit. So I like, that's the first beat that I rhymed over, and like I just turned on my camera, just put the beat in the background, and I was like, freestyle Sundays, I'm gonna start it like just off the top, like that day, and that was a Sunday. And I was just like, you know what? Let me make this freestyle Sundays, because everybody's doing freestyle Fridays and all that other stuff. And I was like, let me do it on an off day, a different day. So I went into doing that in the first season. Like I was doing them all that day. Like literally, like when it was freestyle Sundays, I would get up early. I would actually find or have the beat what I need, and then I would actually freestyle. So none of this from its inception to where it is now, I have not written anything. Never written anything. The only thing I would say that was like maybe pre-thought of or premeditated might maybe be a chorus idea, because I saw the topic that I was going to rap about. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, most great freestylers, that's what they do. You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And how many are you in now?
I know I'm past like 100 something right now. So I'm on this is season 8. Yeah, this is on season 8.
So with doing them in seasons, I take it you do take a break here and there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I've noticed that, again, because how much I was putting out in the beginning, I stopped doing it every Sunday because it started becoming taxing. So I was doing either every other Sunday, or I would do a Sunday where I would just have it recorded, and then another time I would actually go live, and I would just do a whole Freestyle Sundays live. And then in that segment of the Freestyle Sundays, I would find a spot, and that's like, again, that's a one and go. So that means I can't mess up. I can't mess up on it, like the one and go. And then I will also add that as a post.
Wow.
And then what after I start doing with them is that each one of the seasons after season 2, which 1 and 2 is kind of all mixed together, I start doing themes. So season 3, I was doing hip hop theme. And that was kind of the one season where I kind of started falling off on it because there was a lot going on during that time. I don't remember particularly what year that was, but I was going through the hip hop yearbook, and I was like finding tracks in there. So I was rhyming on those beats, but then also I was putting a bit of hip hop history in the titles, but then I was literally coming up with the concept from that, but just more some hip hop history, like check these artists out. Like this is where the framework of hip hop was. And then like each season it started getting more and more. I mean, for me, my own bias favorite season, which I'll get to more of it too. I like season 6. I am an avid Pokemon fan, and it was fun like learning how to like sample. And actually, I did like four Pokemon songs off the top of the head, and that's when I started doing the green screen stuff too. It's like I was trying to take my time to kind of figure that out there too. But that's like one of my favorite seasons to go back to just to watch, because I see the transition and growth. But going back to the seasons in general, I started noticing after a while that, you know, as much as it was cool to definitely rhyme on other people's production, I got the sense that I was annoying people. And what I mean by that, like as in tagging them because I was rapping over their beat or something and things of sorts. And I know some people are gonna be like, oh, so you're gonna rap over the beat, you're not gonna, you know, buy anything or do anything like that. And like, and I got that sense, but then like some of the folks that like I would like respect it, like I've listened to their music and like I actually did it, like they actually was like, oh, okay, I see you did your thing. And it was kind of like a nice like nod, like dang, like yo, you actually, you know, showing love, you showing support.
Of course.
So I thought it was pretty cool. But after a while, it's like, you know what, like I want to keep doing that, being that annoying person. Let me start making my own beats, because I was learning already how to make beats. So everything from season 4 to now has been produced by myself or like a mix of like maybe 1 or 2 of my homies.
Wow, that's an amazing story. I always wanted to ask you that. I feel like ever since I met you, I'm like, when I started seeing you doing the Freestyle Sundays, I'm like, wow, I'm for sure gonna touch on that.
Yes,
because I've seen some of my favorite, one of my favorite all-time MCs. He did a couple weekly series. You know, King Crooked Eye.
Oh,
yeah. 2007, 2008, he did a 52 weeks in a row, and then 2019 he did it again. And when I saw you do that, I'm like, yeah, my boy's doing that. You know?
I didn't even think of them. And shots out to Crooked. I didn't even know King Crooked. Like, wow, man.
Yeah, that boy, he's one of my favorite lyricists of all time. You know, and he's from the West Coast, so I gotta be biased.
Shouts out to the West.
Yeah. But something that I've observed about you, man, like I said, you know, you do a lot of things. Right now, you even brought in, you make your own beats, you do all of that. I try to implement things that I learned from people into my daily life, and something that I've learned from you, my brother, is that you do everything with love. Everything, like all of your passions they're your passions. I know that because you do them with love.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be a passion if you're not doing it with love. I don't hear you say, oh, I got to work.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even look at it as work.
Yeah.
Even your actual job, you don't look at it as a work. And
only when the higher ups get on my nerves, but
that's a little different. You know what I mean? That's kind of like the preacher in the church telling you what to do. Yeah. But you know, but you're still there working the instruments.
Yes.
You know, doing things that you love. How has that experience in your 9 to 5, and you could let them know what is your 9 to 5 after I ask you this. You know, how has that made you into the person that you are now?
So I want to touch on the love, and then I'm definitely gonna go into the 9 to 5. So if no, I'm a lover of words. If I'm not saying that myself, if now you know, and people know me too because I love just acronyms on acronyms. Yeah. So I have like the same acronym for love, but just depending on the placement you want to put it. But for me, my acronym is learning others' values every day, or learning our values every day, or learning one's values every day. So it's a continual day of like, not only can keep learning, but again, as you're doing that every day, you're taking that time and an intention to actually build with somebody and, you know, love on them. So you're learning more about them. And once you do that, because for me, time is the thing that you can, you know, it's the most precious thing because of the fact that it facilitates all those things under it. Facilitates you being able to build the love, you being able to build the focus, the balance, all of that stuff. It all comes with time. So with the whole love piece, like, yeah, man, it's like, I'm really here to learn. And even like if something changes in somebody and like even learning those different, you know, intricacies, you know, I might get tired some of those days, but at the end of the day, it's because I'd rather do that than do the opposite. Because it takes more energy out of me to do the opposite and hold on to something versus when kind of you're loving is like free open. It's like it just comes through and flows through and it imbues everyone else too.
Yes.
So like it's so much easier to do that rather than to really just hold on and hate. And I've seen those times. I haven't been really much more so of a spiteful person, but I've seen moments where I decided to be like, I'm gonna stand on this hill because I felt this particular way because they did something. And some of those in those particular instances, I mean, I was correct to do so, but again, still having that feeling and holding it for like, you know, weeks on end when it could have just been done within a moment's time. Like I don't need that extra stress and drama to be, you know, added in my life.
And it consumes you and makes you sick.
Yes.
And I mean, it adds a whole nother layer of anxiety, which leads to insanity.
Yes.
And then you start victim shaming and yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. And which part of how I started to mold that particular love for a lot of things is the community. So learning how to be in, you know, union with people and like working alongside them, learning, you know, the different intricacies of the person. So like, again, to move your effort towards something bigger than self. And that's always been something too. It's just like, it's not always about me. And if it was up to me, I'd rather just still be, of course, the person in the background doing what they need to do. But there's always in a moment in time where you got to step forward and then also step back. So as I started working with the youth, that was something that, you know, it brought a lot more out of me. And what I do now is I work at a charter school as a school counselor. So I hear a lot of stories of, you know, just, you know, trauma, you know, a lot of, you know, also triumph stories. Yeah. There's a number of things that, again, this youth now like really need. And that was one thing I wanted to be in general anyways. I always wanted to be a support and a rock for people because I know how that was when I was a kid and I needed that, like losing my grandfather at a very like precious time. And like I have his namesake. So my real name, Calvin, actually comes from my grandfather. And it's like, he was such a great man that like, it was almost like I was stepping into some very big shoes. And like, you know, I still, of course, I'm me, but like being able to have that honor to hold his name down and continue to do what I do, it just like, you know, that stuck with me. It's like, you know, there's something bigger than myself. And like, you know, someone has entrusted something, you know, to me, which was like very valuable. And I was like, I'm going to continue to run with this and like, you know, keep that image up, you know, but through my own lens. So doing that with the students and getting like my first instances working with kids. They test me. That's all I ended up saying. Like, if you don't come correct, you don't know who you are. They gonna help you figure out very soon and very quickly. And I'm grateful for my godfather, my godmother, because during that time in high school, I was actually working at, and I don't know if they're still there now, but it was Hope Street Family Center. I was working down there in the summers with a lot of the kids, and like, again, like learning how to interact with them and, you know, building, even though I'm still a high schooler, is like still just like learning those intricacies there. I started to notice from when I was doing that in school, trying to get comfortable and learn my environment, I would do that and like get to know a lot of the kids. And it got to a point where I started being really good with it. And what I mean is like, sometimes I would have some kids who would literally not want to listen to their parents, but they'll listen to me. So then after that, the parents is kind of coming through me as the bridge to be like, okay, can you tell them that this is going on? And then I'm explaining it, and then they're able to do that. And I was just like, what is that, what is that, innate ability that's connecting us already? And it's like being able to bridge people sometimes together, which later on I come to find out is just, for me, I used to do the Clifton, the Clifton strength skills. My number one was developer, and it made sense because of the fact that I just like, wanted to help and support and see people like develop into who they are and, just their being in general. So that's what would happen when I was working with the kids. After a while, is I would not only just meet them at their level, eye level, but again, give that attention and that time and the love and just like receiving it back. And when I did, I know I was on the right path, because I tried it a different way when I was out in Seattle in that terrible program that I'm not going to speak of, like Voldemort. But out there, I went to see how they would do it. So I tried it that way. No, barely to little, no response. I took it back to the way that I know how to work with the youth. So much greater of a response from the kids. There's a number of kids who literally, if you would see them from the outside, they're very studious, they're like quiet, put off to themselves. And a part of it is because they didn't have a comfortable environment to be able to express themselves. So there'll be times where I'm in the classroom and everybody went out for their second recess. And there's a couple of kids that's just like asking me like, Mr. Calvin, can I stay in here with you? And I'm like, you want to stay in here? You want to go outside and play? And then we're like, no. It's like, cause like when we around you, like, you know, you feel like we can be more of ourselves and like comfortable and like move around and do stuff. And I'm like, you know, in my head, I'm grateful that I'm able to facilitate that type of environment. And then at the same time, I'm like, well, I'm still gonna set boundaries with y'all. Y'all can't be going around, running around, doing whatever you want to end up doing. Like, if it gets to this point, we got to shut it down. But other than that, okay, go for it, do you. And because I started to mold and figure that out, that like I just brought that back home, and then I mean I'm continuing to do it as I do now. But there's been a few instances where I'm not a person that like always likes to, you know, shed tears and doing things of that sort. But I've had moments with a lot of those students where, and I'm going back to Seattle in particular because I came back a year after the fourth graders I was working with became fifth graders, so they were graduating. And I had one student in particular where when I got there, like she saw me, and because it was a surprise, they didn't know I was coming or anything. Like literally, it went from extreme joy to like extreme sadness, like in a way of like, but very joyful, like literally like face lit up and then just bawling, come jump into my arms and just crying. And like literally like at that moment, I'm like, I don't even know, like it's hard for me like to even take that, like I don't know. And then like I'm looking up and it's like the other teachers that I was there with, and I was like, yeah, no, you made such much of an impact. No, like like be in that moment with it. And it was just like, again, like I didn't want to, like it was like making me wanted to shed a tear, but it just really goes to show how important relationships are, and really being able to be a role model of building those type of positive relationships with students and teaching them how to do that with people outside of your family. I know we have the whole thing about don't talk to strangers and everything and stuff, but it's going to get to a point where like in this world, like it's really built off of being able to have connections and relationships. Absolutely. So being able to know those signs of, you know, what, again, a positive or at least a mutual like growing relationship looks like, it's so vital.
Not talking to strangers doesn't mean isolation.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And everything you just explained right there, my brother, like it's like it goes back to what I said. You approach everything with love. I want to tell you that I think you would be an amazing parent whenever that comes around. You know, you would.
Man, I'm telling you now, like, again, at the end of the day, some of these kids, like,
you already are a parent, my brother.
Like, Morgan, at this point, these students, a lot of the students are just my children at this point, because I've had so many instances where I've either reminded them of an uncle, I'm reminding them of a brother. For some of them,
like a father figure,
and also and then I mean I had some kids actually slip up and call me dad a couple times, and I was like wait, hold on. But then again, because of my background too, not only in psychology but just like learning about other people's behaviors, a lot of it was just because of the fact that that's something that was either missing, which I was seeing, which unfortunately within the Black community, like about 70, almost like 73% of households are single moms, you know. So there's not the father in the house, and some of that, you know, it's just personal, but at the same time, it's also been created for it to happen that way. So, like, I mean, like more recently now with because I work at a middle school in particular now, because most of what I was doing was either elementary, and then I did like a year in high school. But like middle school now has definitely been such a different. No, yeah, I bet. Different like transfers, because it's like they're still like having some of the behaviors of like they're in like elementary school, but then now they transition over to high school, so it's like
I feel that transition for me personally, it was as a kid you're you have a lot of self-awareness in elementary school. It's
Yes.
gonna sound a little weird what I'm gonna say, but it's true if you think about it.
Yeah.
You have a lot of self-awareness during elementary school. You're yourself.
Yeah.
But then in middle school, the self-awareness goes away because you're too focused on the other person.
Yes.
And it's by
Yes.
nature, I feel like.
Yes.
It's a trip.
Yes.
Very fascinating topics, man. Like, I really appreciate you. I feel like you're so full of wisdom.
I appreciate
You know what I'm
that.
saying? You are, and I'm sure you have an acronym for wisdom. Come on.
Wisdom? Oh no.
You
The
don't?
funny thing is I do not have one for wisdom.
Okay.
But yeah, it's somewhere in there. I have to, at this point I need to write down all of the acronyms that I've done.
Yeah.
I have one for chaos, but I don't have one for wisdom. All I know is wise dome. Like I also like looking at words and breaking them down.
I remember that.
Yes, I
Yeah.
actually on YouTube I did it. I haven't done it in a while. I had a series words of real spells, aka wars. So like I was breaking down words and
That's
reconstructing and finding my own, definition in it.
Yeah.
And I always had the precursor, of course, like I didn't do a long set of research on this, like just giving that disclaimer for folks to be like, this is not the end all be all. But since we have like 4 or 5 different definitions for words all the time, it's just like, why not really get down to the crux and the root of these words, like the etymology, and study them. So a lot of the words, if I haven't done acronyms, is because I tried to study the word itself. And shouts out to my high school teacher, history, Mr. Chavez, and he was teaching us about the lexicon, which is the Greek and Latin roots. So like learning how to read words before and even finding a meaning, the contextual clues because of the prefixes and the suffixes. So it's like I'm already like, okay, so this is actually the word itself, and these are the bits that come together to create the train, like learning compound words and things like that sort, but in a sense of now using prefixes and suffixes. So, man,
this guy, people, I'm telling you, mind blowing, to say the least. It's been a great conversation
for sure.
I'm sure we're gonna do a part 2.
Oh, this is definitely for sure gonna happen.
Probably in another environment if you want. I saw that shout out to Big Surf's that episode, bro. Great episode. That environment, like I want to do an outdoors podcast one day.
Oh,
you know
yeah,
what I'm saying?
man.
Yeah.
I got
shout
the-
out to
the equipment.
Exquisitries too.
Oh yeah, always, man. Always got a rep. This is my favorite bucket hat. It's the most comfortable bucket hat I've ever had. So like, yeah, I'm wearing this buddy out until I get me another one.
So before I close it out, brother, I always ask my guests this because this is like jewelry to me. Is what's the best piece of advice you can give someone?
Honestly, knowledge yourself. Like, really take time to be a lifelong learner and learn the ins and outs of yourself, because that creates a healthy foundation for you to then explore, but already have somewhere to begin. Because a lot of us, again, we look at situations and problems at the symptoms and never go to the root. So if you're rooted where you are, it makes it a lot more easy for you to full out explore things and really figure out, is this a piece of me that I need to, I want to add, or, leave out, or somewhere there. That's how I came up with my motto, which is keep your pace. And I also added and have fun, which pace basically means patience, awareness, consistency, and empathy. And then have fun in the sense of fostering understanding naturally. So while you're trying to find your pace, you're also trying to foster that understanding naturally, because you don't want to force feed it to yourself. And when you do that, you lose a sense of yourself. It's because you're trying to become something that you're not. So yes, it's a part of a be yourself, but really know thyself.
Damn. A.D.V.I.S., people. Poet, philosopher, counselor, cinematographer, podcaster, bro. The list goes on.
Appreciate you.
Drop your plugs, my boy.
All right. You can find me A.D.V.I.S. Music on Instagram and just about everywhere with that. On YouTube, A.D.V.I.S. Speaks, like I'm speaking right now. But yeah, that's really mostly every stuff. Music is out there too. If you want to go ahead and dive into a lot of that stuff. Bandcamp is the best way, honestly, to go and support a lot of artists at this time. So my Bandcamp is still A.D.V.I.S. the same thing. You can find it A.D.V.I.S.S. You can put the dots in and you'll be good to go.
And his latest single just dropped recently, featuring the Boy Destruct.
Yes.
By DJ Zoe, right?
Cuts by DJ Zoe. Yes.
DJ Zoe, my bad.
Production is done by me, actually.
There you go.
So yeah, so
artwork done by the homie Nightcrawler.
Yes. Shouts out to Nightcrawler.
From
Shouts out to Destruct.
Yep.
DJ Zoe, all of them.
So thank you, my brother. I appreciate you.
You
Much love, man.
Yes.
You already know.
Love.
All right. We'll catch y'all we'll catch everyone next time. Sorry. I'm stuck on the acronyms.